At this week's convention, and last week's too, it seemed every speaker talked about how they or someone in their family grew up poor.
My mom worked the phones at Sears so we could hang on to our house.
But it wasn't easy for us to make it. For a while, we were on food stamps.
My grandmother spent her whole life working as a maid, a cook, and a babysitter.
Barack was raised by a single mom who struggled to pay the bills.
So, Mark, in a way, this sounds good for opportunity. The Democrats are acknowledging we have a mobile society. People move up.
They're acknowledging it, but in a lot of cases it's actually false. I mean, if you look at the Obamas, they lived a pretty privileged life. Both of them went to high-end prep schools. They ended up getting rides to Ivy League schools. It's not exactly the average American story, and it's frustrating to see both sides try and pitch that when it's not true.
I don't know that it matters or should matter how many of them were poor or grew up poor. What should matter is their policy ideas. Milton Friedman said, how many of you would refuse to see a doctor because he hadn't been very sick? You know, it's the expertise that matters.
Though, audience likes that. I think when the Republicans say it, they're saying, you know, America's a place where you can do this too. Democrats, when they say it, say, oh, there's so many victims around, government has to be big to help them.
Well, I mean, I think also that, I mean, what they're empathizing and they're saying, look, we had these programs, food stamps, welfare, whatever, that helped us when we needed it. So it's a safety net.
Thank God for big government for that. And people watching the convention this week learned that Republicans want to hurt poor people and old people in lots of ways.
Then there's Medicare. Instead of safeguarding our seniors, Romney and Ryan want to take away the promise that makes Medicare, Medicare.
And turn it into a voucher program and shift the cost to our seniors.
It's just plain wrong.
And the chattering political classes say that will win them the election.
No, it won't. And partly because the Republicans are saying exactly the same thing. Rest assured, Granny and Grandpa, your Medicare's not going anywhere. We'll never do anything for you. I mean, the Romney-Ryan plan doesn't even kick in if they get elected for 10 years. Medicare is what is driving the bankruptcy of this country. It is absolutely destructive, and it needs to be blown up. I mean, we need to start recognizing that being old is not being poor, and all we are doing is systematically robbing young, poor workers of the seed capital that they would be able to base their entire life and retirement on by saying we're going to take that out in payroll taxes and give it to old people, regardless of whether or not they need it. This is where the two parties are closest, and they are arguing over change on the table.
I would defend Paul Ryan here. At least he has a plan. The Democrats just say, we'll protect it, we won't touch it, but it is broke. We will must be kept strong for seniors.
Mitt Romney is the top of the ticket, and he has said in no uncertain terms that he will preserve Medicare. He attacked every other Republican who dared question its sagacity and all of that type of stuff. But beyond that, Paul Ryan, to the extent he's open to conversation, he has the wrong answer. Because basically what he's trying to do is guarantee current levels of benefit. It is unsustainable and it's unworkable. We need to get rid of the idea that just because you turn 65, you deserve a big fat check, whether it's from Social Security, Medicare, or Medicaid, the majority of which goes to old people.
I'm a baby boomer. People my age don't think of it as a big fat check. I'm robbing you, people your age, Hadley. People my age don't know that I'm getting back 3 times what I paid in.
Well, what we have here is two different directions for Medicare, right? Maybe it's not extreme. Certainly neither party wants to scrap Medicare and get rid of it tomorrow. But we do have Paul Ryan's plan, very different from the Democrats' plan. And the Democrats do have a plan. It's the Independent Payment Advisory Board that's in the health law.
That's right.
Something
they're going to lower health. They're going to magically lower health care costs.
The president said,
but Paul Ryan is going to magically do it by creating a voucher which will go up in value the minute.
All right, well, let Hadley make her point
here. Well, what's the better choice? What we have now, moving towards an IPAB system, or moving towards something that Paul Ryan suggests? I mean, those are our choices.
No, those are two bad choices that are very similar. The real choice is to say we need to reconfigure Medicare, Social Security. Were created for people coming out of the Great Depression. We're in a different world now, and we need to radically rethink what the social contract is. And it's certainly not that Nancy Pelosi, who's a millionaire, gets Medicare and Social Security.
Well,
which she does.
We are about to resolve this here, but we're out of time for this. So coming up, we go back to the convention where our special correspondent, we were going to solve Medicare. Welcome back to our post-Democratic convention coverage. What do people care about free markets and free people think about what they've heard? Well, we've got our all-star panel back. Mark Meckler, who founded the biggest Tea Party group, Hadley Heath from the Independent Women's Forum, Nick Gillespie from Reason TV. So first point, as we heard, Kennedy talked to these Democratic delegates about being pro-choice. But why is pro-choice just about abortion? Aren't there other choices in life? It's just
right, and we heard
all you women care about is...
That's all I care about. I can't look up for a second and see that our economy is crumbling. Our unemployment rate's been above 8% for 40-something months.
All right, but let's stick to choice for the moment.
Right. They selectively use the word, as Kennedy said, but we also heard a lot of euphemisms for women's right to decide their own health care choices. Right? That right to decide, that choice. They obviously just mean abortion, because any other health care choice I'm going to make is going to be dictated to me through the government. If the government's taking over our health care system, Obamacare is a huge threat to our individual decisions in health care.
And the list of other choices, and I stole this from David Bowes of the Cato Institute, opened my mind to it. Choice for owning a gun? Say the Dems. Hiring an unpaid intern, which we rely on here? No, it's going to be illegal, says the Labor Department. Minimum wage, pay people what you choose to pay them, where you can invest your Social Security funds, what food you get to eat, if you want to take a recreational drug, whether a woman's right to send her kid to a different school. They oppose all that.
Right, and some of those choices would specifically benefit women more. For example, owning a gun is a great thing for a woman to do when she's in a situation to defend herself. These choices are very important to women, just like they are men, and I'm disappointed to see the Democratic Party always so negative about choices. They say, okay, choices for me, but not for you, whatever you want to choose.
And abortion, my understanding is that women are about 50-50 split on the legality.
Like the rest of the population, right?
I'm very confused. Sandra...
But by the way, John, then just agree with the woman in the conversation, and it'll be all right.
Then I'll be okay?
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to drop it then and move on. I'm going to take your advice, Nick. Another thing the platform is so impressed with, President Obama's created these new government agencies to help us. Under Obamacare, for one, there's going to be the Coordinated Health Care Office. Our health care will be coordinated. The Center for Innovation, the Primary Care Extension Program, the Patient-Centered Outcomes Institute. 30 new agencies. Isn't this wonderful?
I think all of them are going to be, coordinated by the Bureau of WTF. This is, I mean, I got to
figure that out at home on your own.
It's pretty clear that, like, ancient cavemen came up with commissions and bureaucracies and whatnot to just get away from actually having to make any decisions.
What's really going on is Democrats have to find other things in the health law to talk about at this point, because people have heard about the individual mandate, they've heard about the Independent Payment Advisory Board, they've heard about the statewide exchanges, they've heard about a lot of things in the law, and it's still so unpopular that they're trying to drag something out. Oh, we have a Center for Innovation. Like that's all of a sudden going to change people's minds.
I'm waiting for either party, for anybody, any politician to tell me what agency are they getting rid of. That's what I'm waiting for.
It's always more. 30 more just from Obamacare. Dozens, every administration more. They won't run for office saying, I'm going to get rid of... Even the Education Department, Ronald Reagan used to talk about getting rid of that. Romney doesn't anymore.
You know, and as I travel around the country, John, people want to get rid of these agencies on both sides of the aisle. They do.
You talk to Tea Party group.
Not just Tea Party groups. I spent at least half of my time speaking to progressive groups. There is broad agreement that government is too big. That's among the regular people.
Among the progressives?
Absolutely. But the elites on both sides, the leadership, want government bigger. Republicans want bigger government. Democrats want bigger government. What they're fighting over is who controls the bigger government.
Speaking of bigger government, President Obama tonight said, you have a choice. We can gut education, or we can out-educate any country on earth.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the second one then, if those are the two choices. It's, It's tough. I mean, you know, there's good points for both sides. But, I mean...
Gutting. There's a good point for gutting?
These are the types of false choices that politicians are always trying to enforce. You know, a yes-no Manichaeanism. It's just BS all the way down. What Obama has been doing...
Let's explain why it's BS.
Okay,
I mean, gutting is not on the table. They have tripled spending to no effect. Nobody's proposing gutting.
George W. Bush, with the No Child Left Behind law, massively increased federal involvement in education. Obama's continuing
to no benefit.
The great movement in you know, the past 50 years has been the decentralization of power and decision making to the individuals who are most invested in the outcome. What we see with Obama in education is saying, no, we're going to pile more stuff on the top and make a steeper pyramid, instead of saying, you know what, we've tried giving more money to education. Let's just give it to the parents and let them decide where the kids go.
Let the parent choose the school, and the schools would compete. What an idea.
And actually, gutting is on the table. It should be a choice. We should gut the education bureaucracy. We should get rid of the Department of Education. We should drive it back to the states and the localities.
Well, the president didn't say gut the bureaucracy. He just said gut education. Of course, the feds shouldn't be involved anyway. It's a local responsibility. Another bad one. And then, finally, the longest war will be over, said the president. We're ending the wars. And yet, in Iraq, we've taken all the soldiers out, they say, but we've got 16,000 people in an embassy. In Afghanistan, still 68,000 troops for a guy who campaigned on ending the wars.
Well, and, you know, and he said we're going to be out in 2014. We'll see if that happens just as we're out of Iraq, where we left on a withdrawal plan that was you know, produced under George W. Bush. And Leon Panetta, his defense secretary, was begging the Iraqis to let American troops stay there through, you know, past the December 2011 deadline. This president has not earned his Nobel Peace Prize, that's for sure. He's a warrior, and in a bad way.
Our audience agrees with that, and they also watched much of the convention and all of President Obama's speech. So what do they think? And what do you at home think? That's next.